So in my last video, I was hard glazing PGR, and holy fish, that's a big turnout. Well, okay, that's amazing. Hey look, highlighting Kuro's generosity is great. I mean, we're getting a free 5-star in the Wuthering Waves 1.2 update, so as always, it's great to be a Kuro fan. And especially in PGR, we're eating because Lamio's close by. But hey, even though our favorite fish is basically here, the hype isn't over. We got 2 queens coming, the Ascendant Queen and the Ice Queen. You decide who's better. Anyway, we should talk about the nitty-gritty. After all, PGR isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It deserves to have its best parts be highlighted, especially Kuro's generosity. But I feel like there's some nuance missing, so let's put some nuance behind Kuro's generosity. PGR is quite a bizarre gacha game for passing out free characters just like that. I mean, they literally debuted Elisa Echo and made her free in the same patch. And what's crazy is that she's the best physical amplifier in the game, at least currently. Okay, well, I guess now that Wuthering Waves is passing out a free 5-star on his debut patch, PGR is no longer the only one that's doing this, but you get the idea. At least in the gacha space, it's rather uncommon, and my point in the last PGR video still stands. However, as much as these characters that I've mentioned are free, it doesn't mean that you can just start the game and boom, you instantly get them. Sure, you can get these characters without spending any IRL money, however, it's going to cost you something else. Time. In the gacha space, I think a lot of us underestimate the value of time invested into a gacha game. Even I do it from time to time. You see, when I made my last PGR video, I made it through the lens of someone who is sitting comfortably in the endgame. So, for the most part, obtaining these characters take little to no effort on my end. But when you look at things from the perspective of someone starting out, these characters actually take a long time to obtain. Doran commissions would take maybe close to a month or 2 to get Elisa and Isla depending on your roster. As for those in the voucher shop, good luck. At best, it'd probably take more months to obtain even one of these characters. That's not to mention there's a buy limit in the voucher shop where it refreshes after a certain time interval. Meaning that if you buy out the entire stock of the shards, you probably won't have enough to get the character and will need to wait for them to restock the store. Basically, you're getting time gated. So, you know what that means. Have fun playing with your starter units and A ranks for a while. Speaking of which, obtaining A ranks from the resource section is also a pain because there's also a shard limit. Now, the shard requirement to obtain these characters are much lower. It'll probably take about half a month to obtain, so you decide if it's worth your time. But just know that it does cost stamina, so, keep that in mind. Okay. Let's dial it back a bit. There are actual free characters that you can obtain off the rip. I mean, we do get selectors, and we know more free characters are coming in the future. But for now, let's focus on the starter selector. So, the selection of the starter selector has Nanami Pulse, Karenina Ember, Lee Entropy, Live Luminance, and Kamui Tenebrion. Of these 5, 2 of them are really good, Live Luminance and Kamui Tenebrion. Now, here's the thing. Liv is only good at very high investment in which she needs her leap skills for her to be remotely viable, but the materials to upgrade her leap skills take forever to get. And even then, she's currently power crept by another physical amplifier who is being offered for free through the Doran commissions. You know, Elisa Echo. So at this point, if you're looking for a good unit, you're probably going to pick Kamui Tenebrion. Sure, you can get the other 3 if you like them, even Liv for that matter, but they're pretty whatever for the most part. Not to mention, all of these characters are offered in the voucher shop, so you're not missing out on much. But as much as I'm saying you're not missing out on much, remember, these vouchers take a lot of time to obtain. Either way, free is free, right? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it costs time. But let me tell you, it's not as bad as it sounds. You see, when you work your way up to the end game, a lot of things will start to build up, and eventually, the free stuff that's being offered won't take as much effort. By the time you hit end game, it's nearly going to be effortless to a point where we can say that these things are free off the rip. In a way, you can consider obtaining these characters as part of your progression towards the end game, which is rewarding in of itself. And that is why talking from the perspective of someone who has played PGR for a long while is important, as we're able to provide you with a window to look through in order to see that things are pretty good on the other side, and also give you a goal to reach. I mean, when Elisa came out, I instantly got her on day 1 just like that. In terms of currency and resources, I got a bunch, so it's essentially free as far as things go. And let me tell you, as the comment section so kindly pointed out, the new Wanshi frame will be free through the Doran commission much like Elisa, so I know over time, I'll build up enough currency to snag him on day 1 of his release like it's nothing. So for the most part, just play the game. That is, if you want to invest yourself into it. Let's set the record straight. Kuro has proven themselves to be generous. Especially when it comes to PGR, it seems like it's unparalleled. But you need to understand what this generosity is in the face of. You see, a lot of what goes on with PGR in terms of patch releases and events is much more methodical than you realize. In my last PGR video, I mentioned how we are granted saving patches by the grace of Kuro in the form of A rank and free S rank patches. This is fantastic as it gives us more time to build our stack of roles. But it's not so simple. You see, there's a bit of a balancing act that some players might notice, and that's the fact that as much as we get a lot of opportunities to snag some of the characters for free, the amount of rewards that we get aren't that amazing. First, we need to talk about the currency in the game. We have a earnable currency called black cards that can be converted into 4 types of tickets that are tied to specific banners. We got the orange tickets, which are for the event banners and uniframes, the weapon tickets for, of course, weapons, the blue tickets for the standard banner, and the cub tickets for the cub banner. The conversion rate from black cards to any of these tickets is 1-to-1, and 1 roll requires 250 of these tickets, while 10 rolls requires 2500. We also have rainbow cards, which are the premium currency that you can only get by paying real money. They operate on their own conversion rate as shown here, but you can also spend them directly to buy skins. So there you have it, that's how it all works. I'm not going to talk about the rainbow card store and the monetization stuff because that's not what I want to get into today, so we'll shelve that for another day. Anyway, with all of that in mind, let's take a look at some of the events. In general, when you look at some of the event rewards, you'll find that you'll receive a bunch of orange tickets, vouchers, and some upgrade rewards. Now, when you look at the amount of rewards you get, you'll find that sometimes there's not a lot that is being offered here. And for some events, it doesn't even feel like the amount of effort put in equates to the amount of rewards given out. For instance, look at the most recent Into the Deep event. It's a combat event that forces you to kill a bunch of mobs that yields points, and you need to gain a set amount of points in a limited amount of time. Not once, by the way, multiple times. So how much does this one event give? Well, it gives a total of 250 orange tickets. Yup, 1 whole roll in the event banner. And this event kinda takes quite a while. How about the most recent Abyssal Melody event where you fight the upgraded version of Lamia? 250 orange tickets. 1 roll once again. But at the same time, in celebration of the 3rd anniversary of PGR, there's an event that came out called Special Dispatch where it gives you a free skin and a free weapon skin for Elisa Echo. And in terms of rolls, it gives you a grand total of 1000 orange tickets. Basically 4 rolls. How about the Patches Character event? 250 black cards. 1 roll once again. What about Inscribed Dreams? 40 black cards. It's not a lot when you think about it, but hey, this is the 3rd anniversary patch, and by just logging in, you'll get 2500 orange tickets, which is a free 10 roll. So it's not all doom and gloom. Besides, sometimes they do pass out 10 rolls just like that. What about dailies and weeklies? Every daily completion gives you 30 black cards, and the weekly missions total about 1000 black cards. Additionally, you get a little extra from the endgame modes, Phantom Pain Cage and the Norman Revival Plan. On the offset, that may seem small. In fact, a lot of this may seem small. So small in fact that you might not have enough to get a new character after 1 patch. At best, you're only a third of the way there. But given how long the update patch cycles take, it's not so bad as it builds up over time. But when you look at things holistically, it seems rather deliberate and strategic. Especially when you look at how we have saving patches in the form of A rank patches or the patches where the debut S rank is offered for free. And while we're on the topic about the free characters, we need to talk about ranking up our characters. You see, when it comes to farming for A rank shards to rank those characters up, it's going to take a long time. But when it comes to farming for S rank shards, it's going to take even longer and you're limited to a cap, except for those who are in the voucher shop. This is important because the only other way to get those shards is to roll for copies in the Gacha banner. Now, the cap usually gets you up to double S ranking, but do you need to go past that? Depending on the character, it might be necessary. There's an argument to be made to rolling for dupes, but in truth, I think that argument comes in the face of the Warzone game mode, which is the competitive game mode for PGR. Even then, some could argue that some characters can't function efficiently unless they are past the double S rank. For me, I've gotten by with double S rank characters, so it's not necessarily a problem. And for the most part, I just want to get new characters to play with. It really depends on how you play the game. So as you can see, there's a balance between the amount of rewards that PGR provides and Kuro's generosity. Not to mention how every update is conducted and spaced. Something to keep in mind because there's a lot of nuances behind Kuro's generosity. But the ultimate question you should be asking yourself is this worth your time? Well, as always, it depends on how much you like the game. In truth, as much as this is a very straightforward game for what it is, it's also a gacha game, and there will always be some form of mechanics that is not so agreeable. To me, PGR is the very definition of taking the good with the bad. It just so happens that the bad isn't so egregious as some others, but I think there's more to this than meets the eye. You see, in my video detailing Kuro's generosity, there were some comments saying that Kuro isn't the only one who is somewhat generous. What might be happening is that Hoyoverse, which is currently taking up a large market share of the gacha space, is currently normalizing their stingy practices, and that during the pre-Genshin days, gacha games had a good level of generosity baked into them. Though perhaps the balance is that the gacha system itself isn't so forgiving in those games, but that's just a speculation. Now, aside from PGR, I haven't played any other pre-Genshin gacha game aside from Bleach Brave Souls, and honestly, me playing that felt like a fever dream. Though for the most part, I'm inclined to believe in these comments because as far as I know, it seems like the gacha space was different back in the day. Recently I just started Snowbreak during their first anniversary. Don't ask, it's a long story how I got here. And they just threw a free 5-star at us. And it's not just some unit from the unlimited pool. She's from the limited pool. Plus, she's really OP. Not to mention a free 5-star selector, a bunch of rolls, and other stuff. It's quite generous as it stands. So, me highlighting the generosity of Kuro shouldn't be seen as something that's groundbreaking because it exists in other games. But what I want to do is show off what another community has been going through. And especially in relation to Wuthering Waves, it's important to compare how Kuro treats both games and really scrutinize the differences when assessing the level of generosity between these games. But it's more than just that. You see, a lot of this also comes from how we perceive things as free in the gacha space. Playing a gacha game also means that you have to accept some level of predatory practices that are baked into the game because that's how the systems work. What it really comes down to is how much you are willing to accept. And what offsets the negatives are the aspects that are positives, whether it be through the offerings of the game itself or free stuff. But here's the thing, I think what I consider to be free isn't so much free, but it's a term I've long since forgotten when I started getting into the gacha space, and that's earnable. This is the term that truly describes the free characters I've mentioned when talking about Kuro's generosity. It's not that it's necessarily free, it's the fact that you can earn these characters by doing something. And the reason why I seem to interchange free and earnable is because you don't need to spend money to obtain those characters where you otherwise could or possibly would. And when playing a gacha game, what might be at the forefront of your mind is, what can I get away with without spending any money? Food for thought. I wanted to make this video to tell you that despite the generosity Kuro has for PGR, there are some nuances behind it. As much as there is passion, there is also money behind any game. Even then, I will still go out and tell everyone to go and try out PGR because I think it's a game that's worth highlighting. And even with the fact that the free characters are in fact earnable, that's still good because it's not like you need to spend any money in the game to obtain those characters, right? Anyway, that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Up on the screen should be the video of me highlighting Kuro's generosity if you're ever curious over what they have to offer. This video is essentially a part 2 of that. Also, there's another video that is an in-depth analysis of PGR overall, so check it out to see what you're getting yourself into. Oh yeah, and please like and subscribe for more content like this. After all, every like and sub will give you more luck in rolling for Lamia. Trust me, it works all the time. And if it doesn't, it'll work for Luna Oblivion. Alright, see you next time. Bye!